Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're heading way back, late Cretaceous Argentina, to get into a really strange and, well, fascinating dinosaur, Austroraptor cabazai.
Definitely a unique one.
Yeah, we've got the scientific papers, discovery notes, the whole Paleocene it lived in. We're really going to try and understand this southern thief.
That's the name, right? Austro for south, raptor for thief.
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
And the cabazai bit, that's a nod to Hector Tito Cabaza. He was important at the local museum there.
Ah, nice tribute.
So our mission today is basically to pull out the really key kind of mind-blowing stuff about this creature.
Especially its size, right? Being one of the biggest dromaeosaurs from the southern hemisphere is a pretty big deal.
Huge. We're talking the same family as velociraptor, but, scaled way up in some ways.
Mm.
And trust me, some of the details about its body and what that might mean for how it lived, you're going to want to hear this.
Absolutely. I mean, what really grabs you first is just how massive Austroraptor was for its particular group, the Untold. Most of the famous big raptors, Utahraptor and the like, they're northern finds. So getting a giant like this down in Patagonia, it really shifts our perspective on how these predators evolved down south.
Okay, so let's get into the discovery. How did we even find out about this thing? The sources say the holotype. That's the main specimen, right?
The reference point, MML 195.
Right. MML 195, found back in 2002 by Fernando Novas's team.
That's the one in the Bajo de Santa Rosa area, part of the Allen Formation in Rio Negro, Argentina.
It wasn't like they dug up a whole skeleton neatly laid out, was it? More like bits and pieces.
Exactly. That first find was pretty fragmented. You had parts of the skull, some lower jaw, bits of the spine vertebrae, some ribs, an arm bone, the humerus, and some leg bones.
Okay, enough to know they had something interesting, but not the full picture.
Definitely not. But enough to get started. And we should probably mention Marcela Pablo-Isasi and Santiago Royal. They did the careful work of prepping those fossils, cleaning them up.
Right, delicate work. And it took a little while, until 2008, for Austroraptor cabazai to get its official name and description from Novas and his colleagues.
Yep, that's when it officially entered the books.
But the story didn't quite end there, did it? There was another find later on.
That's right. Also in 2008, another partial skeleton turned up, MML 220. This one had more skull material from an adult, but maybe slightly smaller than the first one.
And this second find was pretty crucial.
Oh, absolutely. It helped fill in a lot of gaps. Phil Curry and Ariana Paulina Carbajal formally referred it to Austroraptor cabazai in 2012, and it really helped clear up some early confusion, particularly about its toes, actually.
Okay, we'll definitely get to the toes, but first let's just visualize the sheer size. 5 to 6 meters long.
Yeah, about 16 to 20 feet. We're talking minibus territory.
Seriously. And the weight estimates are kind of all over the place, aren't they? Nova's first guessed around, 368 kilos?
Yeah, about 800 pounds. Then Gregory Paul suggested closer to 300 kilograms, maybe 660 pounds.
But then Benson and his team later suggested it could have been up to 520 kilos.
Over 1,100 pounds, yeah, quite a range.
So definitely a heavyweight contender. Puts it right up there with some of the other giant dromaeosaurs.
For sure. You hear names like Achillobator, Dakotaraptor, Utahraptor, Austroraptors in that same league. It just shows, figuring out the mass from fossils is tricky business.
But the consensus is big, ground-dwelling, two-legged carnivore.
Moderately built, but substantial. Definitely a major predator in its environment.
Okay, now for the weird stuff. The skull, described as low and long. 80 centimeters? That's almost 3 feet long.
It's a remarkably long snout for a dromaeosaur. Very different from the sort of boxier skulls you might picture.
And the teeth are weird too, right? Conical.
Yeah, cone-shaped. And crucially, no serrations. None of those steak knife edges you expect on most theropods.
Which is strange for slicing meat.
It is. Novas and the team even pointed out a similarity to spinosaurid teeth when they first described it. Remember them? The crocodile-snouted fish eaters.
Oh, yeah. Because of the fluted enamel, like little grooves on the surface.
Exactly, that fluting texture, very distinctive.
Okay, weird teeth, long head.
Yeah.
What else? Those lacrimal bones around the eye.
Ah, yes, another odd feature. The descending part of that bone, it curves forward quite strongly.
And that's rare, isn't it? Only shared with one other dromaeosaur.
Adasaurus, yeah. That's the only other one known with that specific curve. Very intriguing connection, or maybe parallel evolution.
Okay, now let's tackle the toe saga. What was the deal with that initial report? Sounded bizarre.
Oh, it did. Based on that first fossil, MML 195, it looked like the fourth toe was just Wildly out of proportion, way, way too wide compared to the second toe.
Like cartoonishly wide.
Pretty much. It was so strange, it even made some people wonder if the original fossil was actually a chimera, bones from different animals mixed together.
Okay, I can see why.
Yeah.
But the second fossil sorted that out.
Thankfully, yes. MML-220 showed that what they thought was the second bone of the fourth toe was actually the first bone of that toe. It was just an artifact of the incompleteness of the first find.
Ah, okay, so no Dino Frankenstein, just a tricky fossil.
Exactly. It's a classic example of how more evidence refines our understanding in paleontology. That second specimen was key.
Right. Now, another thing that stands out is the arms.
Sure.
Surprisingly short for a dromaeosaur.
Yeah, relatively speaking. The humerus, the upper arm bone, was less than half the length of the femur, the thigh bone.
Which is quite different from the typical image of a raptor with long, grasping arms.
It is. And it's not totally unique either. The sources mention Tianuraptor, Zenuanlong, Mahakala. Other dromaeosaurs also evolved shorter arms.
So it happened a few times independently.
Seems like it. And inevitably, people made the comparison to T-Rex, the other famous short-armed giant.
But they're not closely related at all, are they?
Not even close. It's a case of convergent evolution, similar features evolving separately, likely due to similar lifestyles or pressures. Definitely not a family resemblance.
Got it. So just to quickly recap, the really unique distinguishing traits from that 2008 description. Weird lacrimal bone curving forward.
Highly pneumatized, too, meaning lots of air spaces in it.
Okay. And then some details about the skull bones connecting, like the postorbital lacking a certain process, the squamosal process being tiny.
Yeah, technical stuff, but important for diagnosis.
And those small, conical, non-serrated teeth with the fluted enamel, that's quite the package.
It really is. And those features are crucial for figuring out its family tree. The initial cladistic analysis, that's the method scientists use to map evolutionary relationships, put Austroraptor squarely in the Untold.
That's a subfamily within the main Dromaeosauridae family.
Exactly, based on those skull, teeth, and also vertebral characteristics.
And they found it was pretty close to another South American one, Butaraptor.
Yeah, they shared some specific derived features, especially in the neck vertebrae. Tiny details in the bones, but they can tell you a lot about relationships.
Fascinating. But like always in paleo, the picture keeps evolving.
Oh, absolutely. Later studies, like Turner et al. In 2012, Cow et al. In 2017, Lovelace in 2019, they all refined the relationships within Untold.
Different arrangements in the family tree.
Slightly different, yeah. Sometimes Austroraptor came out in a more basal position, sort of an earlier branching member of the group.
And then even more recently, 2021, Brum and colleagues suggested another one, Eupupiara, might be its closest relative, its sister taxon.
That's the latest proposal, yeah. Making them nearest cousins within Untold, or maybe a slightly wider group they called Untoldinea. It's like assembling a massive ancient jigsaw puzzle.
Always adding new pieces. Okay, so let's shift to how it might have lived. What do these features suggest about its lifestyle? There's this idea about Untold being built for running.
Yeah, compared to the maybe stockier northern dromaeosaurs, there's a hypothesis that many Untold were more gracile, possibly adapted for pursuit predation.
Because of their slender build and longer foot bones, the metatarsals?
Exactly. That long metatarsus is often linked to running ability. So maybe less ambush predator, more long-distance chase?
Chasing what, though? Smaller or faster animals?
That's the general idea, although the specifics are hard to pin down. But it contrasts with the Eudromaeosaurs, the other big dromaeosaur group, often seen as maybe tackling larger, tougher prey.
Right, and they even proposed a hunting model for the smaller Putaraptor.
Yeah, the idea was long-distance running, using its longer arms and hands to grab prey, maybe using the sickle claw to dispatch it.
And then swallowing it whole because the teeth weren't great for slicing.
Precisely, and the thought is maybe the much bigger Austroraptor did something similar, just scaled up for larger prey.
But those teeth keep nagging. Conical, no serrations, like the spinosaurids.
It's a persistent puzzle. And then there's the hind limb structure. Evidence suggests Austroraptor probably had what's called a subarched metatarsal condition.
Which means?
Basically, the middle foot bone is kind of pinched between the outer ones, which strengthens the foot and is often seen in fast runners. That, plus hind limbs, proportionally similar to Butaraptor, points towards good running ability.
Okay, so runner seems likely, but then fish.
Yes. The 2021 study by Brum and colleagues threw a real curveball. They looked at those conical, non-serrated teeth again.
And compared them to fish eaters.
Exactly. They noted similarities to teeth in known piscivores, fish eaters, like gharials, spinosaurs themselves, even some early birds. So they proposed maybe annelids like Austroraptor and Epupiara had fish as a major part of their diet.
Wow. Okay, a giant, potentially fast-running fisher. That completely changes the mental image.
It really does. It's a fantastic reminder that we shouldn't pigeonhole these animals. Maybe it was adaptable, hunted on land and near water.
A specialist generalist? Maybe? Okay, let's place it in its world. Time-wise, we're talking late Cretaceous Campanian-Maastrichtian stages.
Right at the end of the dinosaur era, basically. Roughly 78 down to 66 million years ago.
And living in the Allen Formation environment in Argentina, what was that like?
It was a terrestrial environment, land-based ecosystems, and finding Austroraptor there was huge for understanding unalleged diversity in Gondwana.
Because it showed they weren't all small. You had giants like Austroraptor with short arms and smaller ones with longer arms.
Exactly. A much wider range of body plans and ecological roles than we previously appreciated for the southern dromaeosaurs.
And its existence kind of supports the idea that as the older giant predators, the crocodile-like, faded out.
These large coreliosaurs like Austroraptor stepped up, a changing of the guard among the top predators.
Makes sense. Austroraptor being the earliest big dromaeosaur known from Gondwana really drives that home, filling those predator niches alongside the abelisaurids.
Yep, those other iconic South American theropods like Carnotaurus, a diverse predator guild.
The source also mentions Salgado's idea about habitat preference, maybe titanosaurs and big predators like Austroraptor inland.
While hadrosaurs, the duckbills, and maybe Aeolosaurs preferred the coastal lowlands.
Yeah, it paints a picture of zoned environments, different communities in different areas.
It does, and the Allen Formation itself was clearly supporting a lot of big herbivores. You had multiple titanosaurs, Laplatosaurus, Rhocosaurus, Saltosaurus.
That diversity of plant eaters definitely suggests an ecosystem that could support various large predators, whether they were land hunters or perhaps fishers.
Absolutely. And don't forget the other neighbors. Fossils of an early bird, Laminavis, have turned up there.
And several hadrosaurs too, right?
Right.
Bonapartosaurus, Calumopasaura, Lapampasaurus.
Yeah, it was a busy place. Austroraptor was part of a really vibrant, complex, late Cretaceous ecosystem.
A truly unique player in that ecosystem.
For sure. It really challenges our preconceptions about dromaeosaurs.
Okay, so let's try and pull it all together. Austroraptor cabazai, a very large dromaeosaur. Late Cretaceous Argentina, southern giant. Key features: that super long, low skull, weird conical teeth without serrations, maybe for fish, maybe something else. Surprisingly short arms and initially confusing feet.
Classified as an unalleged, closely related to other South American forms like Butoraptor and maybe Pupiara. Lifestyle-wise, likely a capable runner.
And potentially, maybe even primarily, a fish eater, living alongside huge titanosaurs, hadrosaurs, and other predators in Patagonia.
That's the picture we have now. Its discovery really opened our eyes to the sheer variety of dromaeosaur evolution, especially on the southern continents.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How did that specific combination, short arms, running legs, maybe fish-eating teeth, how did that all come together?
Yeah.
What specific pressures in that Patagonian environment shaped Austroraptor into such an unusual predator?
Exactly. What niche was it exploiting so effectively?
And, maybe more excitingly, what else is waiting out there? What might the next unalleged fossil tell us about their lifestyles? It really shows how environments can sculpt even familiar groups, like raptors, into forms we'd never expect. Something definitely worth thinking about. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.